Yeah, that one is, now the hair's going up. Wow, that was spicy. And you ate something spicier than that, like by double?
Technically, about 5 to 6 times.
Oh my God.
So what?
That's really spicy. It's still happening.
Hi, I'm David Voorhees, host of Running Hot, the business insurance podcast. Today we have a special guest. All of our guests are special, but this one's extra special. Rachel Strauss from EHIM, powered by ProCare. By the way, I practiced that before we started because I'm never good at scripting anything, so I think I landed the plane, right?
Almost. It's EHIM, powered by ProCare RX.
See? Listen, I can't get it all right, but I was like 90%.
No, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Well, this has been a long time coming. Excited to have you on. Let me, for the benefit of everyone, and maybe a little bit you, explain the premise here. We have 6 sauces. I say 5 are for free, and the 6th one's for me. So once you get to the 6th one, assuming you do that, we'll give $1,000 to the charity of your choice.
Amazing.
Have you picked the charity?
Or
not yet. Think about it. Okay,
I'm going to think about it.
You think about it. So
yes.
we'll definitely talk about that. But I think
I did just think of the charity.
Did you? Okay, Go for it. Tell us what it is.
So I'm going to be giving to Heroes for Kids. It's an organization. They started in the state of Texas, but are now in 3 states with the goal to become national. They are an organization that helps with the immediate needs of families who have children recently diagnosed with cancer. So think of everything from being able to pay a house bill because they're also paying for deductibles to get treatments for their children, to a child maybe needing a laptop because he has to study for finals while going through chemo.
All right, well, let's get started. So our first sauce here, we'll take it easy on you.
Okay.
It's Bravado Spice Company, creamy herb and jalapeno. Ready to go?
I think so.
Let's do it.
All right.
Number 1.
I'm already high maintenance. I'm going boneless.
I think it's got a good flavor.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know this, but we accidentally had boneless one episode, and I realized that the breading actually helps a little bit with the spice, so you're lucky.
Okay.
Also delicious. Wingstop does a good job catering our wings for us.
No, they're delicious.
So first question, I intentionally left off your really pseudonym, the name that you're known in the market is the PBM Princess. So how did you get the nickname, moniker, PBM Princess?
Sure. So it stems from a friend of both of ours, Lester Morales. I think we were doing a podcast during the pandemic, and for years, people at EHIM, we had a titleless organization where nobody really, except for the CEO, right? Everybody really just had different roles and weren't boxed in by any type of title that prefaced their name. And so I was doing a webinar early on in the pandemic, and he needed something to put under my name. And I think he put something as a joke, like the Queen. And I said, well, we're a woman-owned company. I feel uncomfortable. He goes, okay, I think we'll call you the PBM Princess. And, I don't know if it was a compliment or not, but I decided I didn't hate it. I just knew I couldn't be the Queen at the time, be having a woman-led organization. And so it kind of stuck, and I just took it.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think it's great. It rolls off the tongue nicely.
Thank you.
People know you well. I do personally believe it's a positive. I don't think anybody's knocking you for it.
I mean, and let's just say if I could use glitter on presentations, I would. So, it makes sense. I like pink.
Yeah. Did you know there's edible glitter?
I did, yes.
So the only reason I know this is my wife likes sparkling champagne.
Yeah.
Or I also learned you can't say champagne unless it comes from a certain place in the country or the world. But in her champagne glass for a party we had, she put edible glitter. Yes. So I did not know that.
The same people correcting you about that also don't like when you call it champs. That's what I've learned in my experience. They don't like that either. But yeah, whenever anything with glitter shows up in any social feed of whatsoever, I might get 50 people forward it to me. So yes, I've seen it once or 50 times.
And definitely see pink a lot when I see you out on Insta, or I see you on LinkedIn, or when we're presenting together out at baseball parks throughout the country. I realize I don't have a lot of pink anymore. High school, college, pink was very big for males. It isn't as big anymore. But I tried to get the most colorful shirt I had for you.
It matches, with my pills.
That's right.
I'm branded today. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, let's jump into number 2. This is Bravado Spice Company, Serrano and Basil.
Bravado.
We're stepping up to medium.
Okay.
I don't think that there's much here, but I host a show based on spice, so my spiceometer is probably not the same as everybody else's.
Okay.
All right. Did that first one do anything to you?
No.
Okay, good.
No, I took the water just because of
Yeah,
bite. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Number 2. I find that these have the first 3 kind of a vinegar base to them, and I love them. So,
that one's really good.
Morgan, who's our head of marketing, we sampled all these when we first started this, but just plain. So we really got the basic flavor profile of all of them. And all of them are really good. Even the last one, which I won't tell you the name of it because we want to see your reaction to it.
I thought this one sounded familiar. From Houston, Texas,
There you
which
go.
is where I live. Very cool. Yeah, delicious.
So, find in our line of work, a lot of people enter the industry for a variety of different reasons. It's a good career. You can make a good living. Others have a calling, maybe a personal situation. You and I, after probably 6 months or a year working together, realized we had a mutual connection with something that you went through as a parent, as a mother. But I think a lot of what drives you is your personal experiences in healthcare with your son. So how does your personal, experience with healthcare drive you in your profession?
Sure. So I think, all of us, that we play with in our world have various missions. And where we're all aligned is really from helping manage the costs of healthcare. That's really the basis of everything. Healthcare is personal to me. I watch, my entire family had some role in some capacity with healthcare. My father's a physician. My grandfather, who recently just passed, unfortunately, was a pharmacist. My stepmom was involved with, in the PBM business. So I really had a lot of exposure to healthcare. It's also a story for another podcast. Maybe if you do chocolate tasting, you can talk about romance, how I met my husband. For me, I was very lucky that I hadn't had to utilize our healthcare system other than, traditional, getting sick here and there. But when I had my first child, Leo, who's now 8, we found out during our 20-week ultrasound that he would have what's called congenital heart disease. The technical term, which I'll say before we get into all this hot sauce, he has tetralogy of Fallot with a ventricular septal defect, as well as pulmonary atresia. And we're very, my husband and I, when we got this diagnosis, it was very difficult at first. My first child, finding out, he would likely be born blue, not be able to breathe. We'd have to have open heart surgery. It was a very, very rough time. The first thing that did not go through my mind was what hospitals are in network or, who is going to do this surgery. But it was, obviously all these things start coming. Once you figure out a game plan, you start wondering about how the healthcare system, now that you need it, is going to impact you. We talk a lot about, before this, you asked if I was okay talking about it. CHD is an amazing thing because I had never heard of it. But 1 in 100 babies are born with some form of CHD. And when we got through the emotion of it, Levi, my husband, and I decided, we didn't have a lot of people we knew with this, but we knew there had to be because 1 in 100 is not that rare. And so we said we would always speak about it whenever we could, because on the off chance somebody's watching this, you may know somebody or have a recent diagnosis that you heard of, and please reach out to me, LinkedIn, however you want to get a hold of me. We are happy to talk to parents. My husband talks to dads, and part of that, as we kind of get deeper into this, was that I now was a recipient of very expensive claims and needing to navigate this. I was, my son had open heart surgery successfully. He lives a beautiful life, 8 years old, just started 3rd grade, where they only do 1 snack a day, not 2 snacks a day. That's the latest that I have found out. But we had to navigate these bills that started coming in. I was a new mom, and it was thank God I had the education on my side, because so many people do not. And these bills are scary and they're overwhelming. And even though there are continuous evolvements that, like out-of-pocket maximums and things that are put into place, it's still super overwhelming. And I have made it my mission to not just be a part of this industry, but to educate and be a voice for people who can't find their own.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't say that any better about having the influence on the industry and what you want to give back to it.
Yep.
The weird connection we figured out is the surgeon that effectively saved your son's life was in residency with my father, who's a retired vascular thoracic surgeon. So super small world, especially in our community, we find like all these commonalities. But I was talking to our lovely production staff earlier, and I was explaining that I can at times be somewhat of a crusader because I know when something isn't correct. I know when someone's not billing right. I know when someone's telling me a funny story. I know when someone's made a mistake. Mm-hmm. And we all make them. I don't care about them as long as we're dedicated to trying to find a resolution. But what bothers me is that when other people that don't know that there's a mistake that has occurred or something isn't happening that they don't know and we still let it happen. And so when you talk about educating people, I think it's from a place of trying to get people to embrace the control they have over their most important asset, which is their health. Yep. So that's awesome. So talk a little bit about, before we get to the next one, talk a little about you're starting a new podcast based around education. So tell the audience a little bit about that.
So it's kind of twofold. I really think that, through our world and through the pandemic, all of us have connected on LinkedIn and in various forms of social media. And so, I really started thinking, what could I do now that we have audiences, right? And there's just so many people out there that are doing incredible things. And so, my husband, who's far wittier than I am, kind of said, we're all like, he called us influencers, insurance influencers, which I don't know if it's a thing, but, we could do a collaboration here,
right.
Tag me. Get ready with me. I don't know. But I decided on LinkedIn that I'm going to start showcasing people that I really see who are moving the needle. And, I've been very blessed in the 20 years of my career to have done a lot with philanthropies and a lot of, organizations that fundraise. And those people don't have as much access to our world. Right. And they utilize it, right? I mean, they have benefits, they have insurance, and don't understand how many people are just doing incredible things. And so that's really what I'm going to start doing, is focusing on people who are making a difference. And I've also started in my 40s. I don't need to say my exact age, but I am in my 40s and I'm now on TikTok. And the reason I did it is there's so much misinformation out there. Like it or not, Ozempic has become a thing. I think I've been asked about Ozempic and its coverage from more friends than I ever have. I've worked in pharmacy benefits for, again, more than 2 decades. I think most of my friends up until Ozempic thought that I worked for a pharmaceutical company. It wasn't until they realized when they wanted something and it was being declined or, and it was like, oh, I think that's what Rachel does, is she works on the payer side. And it's just amazing to me that most people don't even know how to find their PBM on their ID card or what a PBM is. And the last thing I'll mention with that is PBMs have literally been in the news every week for the last 3 months in some capacity, and nobody's talking about it. I mean, I think we're talking about it in our industry, right? I mean, certainly it's showing up in my news feeds, but there was an article in Forbes just last week, and it said blatantly, why should Americans care about this? Because it will affect almost every single one of them. Right. And nobody's talking about it. So hopefully we'll bring more awareness and go from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into question 3, which means sauce number 3. We're still with bravado. This one near and dear to my heart. I always mention this Crimson hot sauce, University of Kansas, Crimson and Blue. We're getting into 3 pepper territory, medium. Still think it has a vinegar base. How is number 2? Did number 2 do anything? Just good stuff?
Nope.
Okay.
Is this the one that's going to start?
I don't think so. I mean, again, I'm probably not the best person to ask, but I think this is still.
But this is like what my plates normally look like. I'm a condiment person, so this is exciting.
Okay.
It's exciting. It's actually my favorite of the 3 so far. Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times I talk about how good this stuff is on eggs.
On eggs, yes. I love hot sauce.
Breakfast eggs. Hard to beat. So we've talked a lot about education, and we've talked a lot about, kind of how you got to the place that you're at. What do you think has been maybe the 1, 2, or 3 things that have been most influential in continuing to drive you to want to educate yourself, to want to continue to be a thought leader, a thought provoker in this space? Because you've already ascended, right? So you could just relax, and a lot of people do, but you continue to want to learn, give more. What are the 1, 2, 3 things maybe that have said, okay, this is why I do what I do every day?
The fact that we're making change. It started early in our career, and I remember being, on the boutique side of things. Again, I always laugh. We were a woman-founded company, so a lot of little touches and names we had were woman-led. And I remember when I first started in my career, there was a term called designer drugs that, we had kind of coined at EHIM, back in the day. And this really was geared towards the purple pill, which was Nexium, for those who may not remember the advertising, but that's really what it was called. It was the purple pill. It was a prescription. Now it's obviously over the counter. But when that drug came by prescription, we kind of saw this price, and immediately we called it designer. And we said, if employers want to pay for that, we were just getting people into the self-funded concept. And I remember sitting in our conference room, we were always very attuned to what Blue Cross was doing. I mean, Blue Cross, right? The behemoth, even 20 years ago they were. And I remember sitting in my seat when Blue Cross announced their first ever non-preferred drug tier. So this was, not just designer drugs. They actually came out with, and it was a result of what boutiques like us had been doing. We kind of set the stage and said, there is no reason to pay for these drugs if they're over the counter or have versions available. And the fact that, this gigantic company, I remember being young and sitting in my chair and being like, they're copying us. And, our CEO, Mindy, at the time, she kind of looked at us and she said, exactly. And she goes, because it's working. And we are going to make this more affordable. And, you fast forward all these years later, programs, that are designed to help with specialty medications, cost containment, True Captive, right? All of these various programs finally, here I'll give promo, using data to make a difference and really come back to change the narrative of how healthcare is issued in this country. That's what keeps me going, and that's what makes me, want to learn about every partner out there. Can it work together with us? And really, where do we go from here? And I think that the more access we provide and the healthier we can make people, hopefully once we get, you're on the risk side, the more people we can take care of and they stay healthier, the less expensive it becomes for the people who really need it.
Right. And I've had the benefit and opportunity of spending a pretty decent amount of time with you, and that's totally on brand. That is you. I mean, you talk about trying to educate the market, give more to the market. That is really your brand. I know you're the PBM Princess, but that's the brand that comes true. And it's interesting what you talked that story about Mindy. We started as a company doing something that no one did before and investing in the risk of our customers. And people ask me on our team, well, what happens when our competitors copy what we do? We'll applaud them. We'll say, great, because we can't be the only ones that change everything. We have to be part of a group that does it collectively. And I think where people get it wrong as entrepreneurs, business owners, competitors, making money isn't a bad thing. And we all don't have to be something that's going to take away from what you have. If you do something really well, you're always going to have customers. If you care about what you do and you provide great service, you're always going to have customers. There's never going to be one total solution that will fix everything. And so I think what Mindy was talking about is critical is great.
Yeah.
That validates what we're doing, one, but two, more people are going to be helped by this.
Correct.
Awesome. All right, well, let's jump into number 4.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Moving into number 4, staying with Bravado Spice Company. Give this one a little shake. This one, you'll notice they get darker and thicker.
And there's more in the bottle, I'm noticing. Because if you start here, it's like, generous pours, not so bad.
Confident.
I'm seeing how much is in that last bottle, which is starting to...
So this is Maruga Scorpion.
Okay.
It's called Super Hot. So 1, 2, and 3 seems like you nailed it. I think 4 also has a great flavor profile. We'll see what you think. once you dive in. Oh, thank you.
I like that these all had flames on them, like we're filled, but they're done with the flames.
There's no gimmicks here.
Yeah,
This is let's get to the.
All right, are you happy with that? I think that's a substantial.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
This is where I start getting excited.
That one was a little spicier.
Okay. Okay. So, don't forget my feedback. Water will squish it around. Milk will.
That's right.
Now, this is a good time to thank our sponsors at NavMD. It's also an opportunity for me to make fun of the promo just a little bit because the commercial is funny, in my opinion. It's running milk, and then Glenn Fisher, the CEO of NavMD, speaking in his best Barry White voice, talking about how spicy healthcare is, and it's great. I mean, I watch it every time, and I laugh.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Like, there'll be a cut. It'll be a hard cut, and then all of a sudden, it's like NavMD, and it's rolling milk.
Companies are frustrated with the spicy costs for health benefits. Most C-suite executives believe that benefits costs are way too spicy and feel that the number 2 expense on their P&L is running hot. With NavMD, we help you win business, lower costs, and save time. Join us on our mission to revolutionize health benefits, one plan at a time.
So, please do
I don't know
enjoy.
that I've seen that, so that's happening now.
Yeah, well, it'll happen after we talk.
Coming right back.
Yeah, we'll come right back, and and then it just abruptly comes back to our conversation, which is awesome. I love the way it's cut; it's phenomenal. Okay, so question 4, I will let you in. Is these naturally diffuse your normal polish, right? That's what it's because you're thinking about how hot it is.
Yeah, no, I'm starting. I mean, there's some like little delicate beads of sweat. What do they say now? Very demure, very mindful.
Oh.
I know.
These big words. Maybe I should have a spelling contest.
No, it's TikTok. I'm telling you, I'm like cool now.
You know, I still miss Vine, and I was late to Vine. I got in on the last month of Vine, and I found it wildly hilarious, some of the things they put on here. And I think TikTok is the new Vine, so I'm wondering what the next TikTok will be.
I don't know. Do you remember MySpace?
I do.
What was your profile song?
I did not have a MySpace page.
Oh.
Funny, quick story. The only reason I ever got Facebook or LinkedIn is at the time my employees threatened to start profiles for me on both. And I heard that it's almost impossible to take it back. So I just went ahead and did it myself. And now here I am on both. So no, I do remember seeing my friends' MySpace pages. I think NSYNC was pretty popular on that tool as well. I
mean, you had your own song. I remember mine like went between like Fiona Apple, like just things to show that I'm real edgy. I was not.
That's right. We all wanted to think that.
Yeah.
I remember. So question 4. So let's think about, we've talked about your background. We've talked about how you've become the PBM Princess, about what drives you. Maybe talk about, if you could think about things that frustrate you about our industry, things that you push yourself to try to overcome stigmas about PBM or overcome stigma about working not for a pharmacy manufacturer. But, what are those things that really get under your skin and drive you to say, hey, I want to set the record straight?
So it's a couple things, I think. I think that shiny new toys get kind of annoying. I think that, look, we're in an era of innovation. And I think that everything, needs to be looked at just because it's new and shiny. And I think you know what I'm talking about. You have amazing partners here that True Captive works with, for example. And then, we're in a world that's very broker driven, and brokers, thank God, are how I have my livelihood. But sometimes I think it's easy to start looking over here and forget what you're trying to do in the first place. And so I think that's the first thing that irks me is with all the innovation, we still have to figure out what are we trying to innovate and what are we looking at. The second piece that goes with that is when innovation is put in place, you need to make sure everybody is all together, right? I mean, we are, we were just talking about today, and I don't want to, if you don't, from HIPAA, but you had a test today.
Yeah.
And you I immediately asked you, did you pay cash or did you pay, because I know that it's a very inexpensive test, under $100 in fact. And yet somebody needs to know you had that test. And if things aren't plugged back together and built, it's very hard to comprehensively take care of the health of a patient. So that's one thing that I guess irks me, and the kids call it the ick factor. What gives you the ick? Just so you know, I'm going to help keep you cool. That's what gives me the ick, is when we don't know all of these different pieces, and it doesn't mean that they're not good if they are a shiny new toy, but we just have to work together. As far as the PBM industry is concerned, I think that what gives me the ick is the number of articles, as I mentioned earlier, that are coming out, but we're not all the same, right? I mean, that you can lump the big three in one sentence, right? But then there's, 100 vendors, and we really are, together doing a really good job. I mean, we're impacting trend, we're impacting, out of pockets. And the last ick I'll say that I do want to mention is, I think that the more every vendor in our industry keeps getting, scrutinized, and everybody wants transparency, there is a cost to that. I mean, you have to be, you have to understand PBM should get paid to do a job, right? I mean, there is a rationale behind everything, and I just hope everybody keeps that in mind, because everybody's working really hard.
No, I think that's really important too. And what I would also highlight, and I hope everyone picked up on this, is you just advocated for your competitors, right? Mm-hmm. You just talked about the entire industry and spoke positively. That doesn't mean that you don't want to compete and win, right? I know you're competitive. I'm super competitive. I get that. But you're speaking positively about the industry, and I think that's huge, because we can easily tear down everybody all the time. But let's talk about what makes me unique, because you'll pick me if that resonates with you. But otherwise, there are hundreds out there that can do a good job for you if they have the right intent in mind.
And I'll be honest, we got a claim run just recently, and the broker sent it to me. We were within 1% of margin, and everything that they did, we would have done. There was nothing I could find. And I literally called the broker and said, there is absolutely no reason to change. Like, I don't even want you to go admin fee to admin fee. I mean, at the end of the day, they did the job. And unless, someone called one of your kids ugly that you work with over there, like, just leave it. Like, there's no reason to change.
Yeah. I think I have a pretty big leg to stand on this, because we invest in the risk that we're taking. Mm-hmm. So we're working hand in hand. We can't win without you winning, and we'll lose if you lose. And we've gotten so consumed with saving the most money we possibly can, and we forget that if you tear out any room to make a mistake, you're only going to harm the customer. That doesn't mean, this is not code for overcharge, overbill, egregious stuff. This is saying, though, if you're always looking for the bottom dollar, you'll find it. But then when a mistake happens, because that's the one thing we can guarantee will happen every year, no matter what, something will happen. We just don't know what. We know we'll solve it. But if you do that, you take out your margin of error, and then you're going to make it harder for you to continue to keep your customer. Because you're like, well, you got me the lowest price, but now I've got a plus 40 increase. It is just incumbent on people to start thinking about the value of the service, the experience of the customer, and the ROI on that total package. Not, I got $8 when I was going to be charged 10, and that's why I'm going to pick that. That shouldn't be your sole decision criteria.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a biggie that we see in that. And
I think one last one I'll mention, because I see what's coming here, is loyalty.
Yes.
I do think that that's a factor, and I think that goes with everything, right? I mean, brokers want loyalty from their clients. We want loyalty when we do a good job, right? I mean, I get it's a competitive marketplace, but that ick sometimes comes in when somebody comes, and says, well, I got to bid it. And it's like, well, we've done a really good job, but okay, and just to remember loyalty.
I was talking to Dennis Gardner, who's our head of sales, a partner of mine, and someone that I consider a mentor.
Yeah.
I joke and say he's my spirit animal, because without him, I don't think I'd make it through many of my days. But we were talking about one of my biggest lessons in the industry was early on that everybody seems like you can trust them. Mm-hmm. And everybody talks about it, but it's really hard to separate the people that are really just trying to protect themselves and somebody that's really trying to do what's best for their customer. Again, at the end of the day, if you really break it down, as humans, we are built for self-preservation. So the ones that say, trust me, but are really focused on their livelihood, in a way you can understand it. Doesn't mean you have to respect that's how they do it. But You're like, okay, I get that. But that was the biggest aha. And so when I was talking to Dennis, if you're going to lean on being a friend, if that's how you're going to sell that partnership, then that has to be your strategy. If you're going to sell on strategy and price, then that has to be your basis of, okay, I understand. But what happens is you start to blend these two together, and they're competing priorities. Mm-hmm. And that's what's tough in this industry is how do I trust? And I talk to our team all the time about this is even though we might get burned by somebody, and it's going to happen, the challenge isn't to go out and try to win business again. The challenge is try to erase how that felt and prevent you from meeting the next person that you have a great opportunity to build a wonderful connection and either build value for them or receive, education, partnership, whatever. So loyalty is huge. I'm glad you brought that up because it's tough, I think, for everybody.
You basically talked about dating. It's the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, nobody would fall in love, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
That is very true. You talked about your husband and chocolate. Our next episode, which I'm super, super excited about, kids.
Okay.
And we're going to do sour candy, not chocolate.
Like that.
So we don't obviously want to subject them to the heat, but really getting their understanding of healthcare, right? Because we talk to adults.
It's so funny you say that. Some ideas that I've had, now that I'm doing a similar thing with LinkedIn and videos, is we were saying that I want to ask kids like basic insurance words.
Oh, yeah.
And then I have friends who have had benefits for more than 20 years and ask them the exact same words and just see if my kid knows what a deductible is more than a friend of mine who has had a health plan for 20 years from her employer. So, but yes, I can't wait to see the kid episode.
You might have to go into witness protection program because something tells me that those kids might be more knowledgeable than some of the adults.
Scary. It's scary.
So, all right. Let's jump into number 5.
Still bravado.
Yes.
Bravado.
So this is Black Garlic Carolina Reaper. So the names also become more intimidating.
Well, garlic sounds good, but yeah. All right, here we go. Yes.
And we don't do a lot of pictures of the plates, but you're putting your fair share on there.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job.
I'm going to get this ready, though, because now that the word Reaper has come into play.
It's good. I think so. But this, the last one got you. Let's see.
The last one got me, but I made it through.
They're different for different reasons, but...
So to me, this one, not as hot as that one.
I can see that.
I'm going back to sauce 1, though, just to cleanse my
palate
a little, because it's good.
Could you bring up Da Bomb real quick?
Oh, God, are we getting like a 7th one now? I do have a good dad joke for you the consistency of that is somewhat frightening.
It's weird. Maybe you can get just a little dab. And I mean like a dab.
If it incinerates my plate, we're going to...
That's good.
Okay.
No more than that. And just try that one. Do I have any... Yeah, I'll use this.
That doesn't even have flavor. That's just
straight heat.
Yeah, it's just...
But I probably helped you a little bit.
Yeah, I might be sweating now.
All right, you said you had a dad joke for me.
Where do bad rainbows go?
I have no idea.
To prism.
Oh.
It's a light sentence, but it allows them to do some reflecting.
That is a double.
It's a triple.
Jeez.
I know, it's a good one.
That's pretty good. So did that have a little bit of heat?
Yeah, that
you barely got anything.
Yeah, okay.
Now we're playing ball here.
Yeah, that was spicy. I'm going back to sauce 1 because sauce 1, the vinegar is helping more than... I haven't tried the milk yet. I'm saving the milk for
The real?
Uh-huh.
So, not only did we get you to question 5, add a little bit of extra heat, which again will save you here. So we've gone through, really, a lot of different things that we've talked about. Think about maybe a lesson learned or not necessarily a mistake made, but one of those moments that transformed you as a professional who said, okay, this is how I want to act or how I want to action a decision based on this experience. Maybe what was the experience and how did that transform you?
Ooh, all right. Well, I think, I don't know if I can speak in specifics, but just in lessons that I've learned that I continue to remember. And the first one is that it's okay to make a mistake.
Absolutely.
I think that as we grow and as people, professionals, anywhere in life, perfection is never what's expected, right? I mean, I think that when a mistake is made, it's hard to take ownership. It's easier to, I always think that Batman Robin where everybody's pointing at each other like this. I think that if you can get to the point where you have the humility to be able to say, I messed up, that is totally wrong, or I didn't respond to that email, or because I think people are much more gracious when you're honest as opposed to, scrounging to try to save face. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned, and unfortunately learned it through doing this or never letting it be my fault. And so, it also helps when you work in a team and you take ownership. So that's probably one of those things. And the other one, especially for being in sales and growing, a book of business, is that not every account is the right one to win, and that's okay. And understanding that sometimes groups will leave, and you have to be gracious when that happens. Otherwise, you burn a bridge. And so I think those are two things that have really, because nobody wants to lose, nobody wants to be wrong. But the better you are at the bad times, the better you can celebrate and be when things are good.
I think if there was anything that I could bottle up for a professional, is what you just talked about, being okay with making a mistake and embracing it. People see, especially when you're a younger professional, this is really hard to do when you're establishing yourself, but people see a mistake as a failure that, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my customer, I'm going to lose fill in the blank. But as somebody who purchased insurance for 20 years, that was one of my core functions, there was nothing that spoke more to me than someone's integrity and who they were as a human when they said, I made a mistake. And they were okay with it. Now, I would then evaluate what's your next step. So I'm not saying, say I made a mistake and walk away. It's what are you going to do? And maybe that resolution is successful. Maybe it's not. But it shows that you're going to try.
Yep.
Right? And I think that's the biggest thing. Now, yes, you will lose customers, you will lose jobs, you will lose friends by admitting to making a mistake. That is going to happen. But the one thing that I learned in my career that was the most impactful, and it was Susie Orman that taught me this. There's a longer story to how I met Susie.
Oh, you've met her?
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
She's phenomenal. I had her wrong going into working with her, and she completely changed my impression of her, just completely dynamic. But her lesson was this, that if you do what other people think and it's not right and you lose your job or lose your client, whatever, you're going to go home and you're going to obsess over the fact of you should have done it differently. She said, what if you go in and you're yourself, you're authentic, and you lose? What do? You go home, it just wasn't the right fit. I did everything I could because I was me. Mm-hmm. She's like, key phrase, it still might not work. But you never have to second guess or worry it just wasn't the right fit. And that fundamentally changed me as a professional in my career, where I was like, whoa, because I spent so many years trying to fit into a box that I thought my boss wanted or my employees wanted or my peers wanted, and things are going to go wrong. Mm-hmm. But then I went home and I go, I should have done it this way. When Susie told me that, I'm just going to be me. And if that's good enough, great. I'm still going to learn. I'm still going to grow. That doesn't mean it's an excuse to just be who you are for the rest of your life. But when something didn't go wrong or go right, I just go home and go, crap, that sucks. How am I going to do it differently? Not how am I going to change who I am? It was awesome.
I love that. It's very profound.
It was. It was crazy. So anyway, Susie, if you're listening, it meant the world to me. So, okay, we are to question 6.
Okay. What are all those? I'm so interested in what's in this cup.
Oh, these are questions.
Oh, okay.
I have a standard question that I ask. Let me fight my nose.
Yeah, I'm starting to sweat a little. I don't know if it's the studio lights or
nowhere near
5B.
as bad. Nowhere near as bad as Adam Berkowitz. Adam Berkowitz was like basically looking like he was working out, sweating. It was great.
Okay. I'm powdering,
Yeah, you're doing great.
I'm delicate. Okay.
There's a favorite question that I ask everybody, but I've never gotten a really good answer. Sean Barber did have a really good answer to this, but it was, what's one silly ritual? Because everybody has something that they don't tell people. But I've only had one person respond to as a great story about what they do before football games. It was awesome. When he's talking about NFL football players before a football game, getting into a car, listening to music, And sometimes they're super amped up. Sometimes the music hits them and they cry. He's like, we just get in this car, and I'm like, wow, like you guys are linebackers, by the way. These are the toughest dudes on the planet when you're doing that. But he was the only one that ever answered. Everyone else usually chickens out, so I don't ask that question anymore. Morgan smartly says, hey, do you want me to come up with a couple of questions so you don't have to think through them? And so what I do is rather than let you choose, I stack the deck. I'm a smart host. I want the audience to be entertained. I have 3 questions that I really, really like.
Okay.
So kudos to Morgan for crushing the question. I haven't seen these 3.
Okay.
All right. So, last sauce.
Okay, so I eat this first before I answer the question.
Oh, yeah. I purposely waited to tell you the name of this.
Okay.
This is made by Grinders. It's a restaurant here in Kansas City. It is called Death Nectar. If you look at the picture, it just really exciting, right? Inviting.
It is really something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can. I think we've seen it before, but that's the visual. This is 337,000 Scoville. So this is very, very
At some
high.
point, that number's just like made up, but I like the.
So if you
drama.
saw the episode with Glenn Fisher,
Yes.
CEO of NavMD, they surprised us with Pepper X, which is the hottest pepper on the planet.
Okay, that was at the end.
Yes,
I must have missed that part.
So
okay.
I had read about it, and one of the gentlemen who made this had been testing it and ended up falling on the floor and like having a medical event. And as you get older, as a parent, mortality really hits you. And so I'd read that, and I'd already just in my mind said, I'm never going to try Pepper X. But I'm on the show. Pepper X comes out. He's like, hey, do you want to do it? I'll give $1,000 to your charity. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, I did see this. Yes.
I don't flinch. I flinched. I paused. Like you can see, I am I'm conflicted, and I flinch. And so no one's made fun of me for that, but they've all gone, I've never seen you do that. Okay. You flinch. So this isn't flinch sauce. That's well over 1 million. I believe Glenn said 2 million Scoville. Now, I will tell you, this heats you up enough where I don't think it was as brutal as it might be if you just did it from the beginning. But anyway.
Okay.
So, Death Nectar.
Death Nectar.
Don't hurt yourself too much, but give yourself enough to...
No, yeah, I don't want to hurt myself, but...
This is for the charity, right? Just remind yourself that.
Here we go.
I always say that. Just remember, this is for the kids.
Yeah.
This is for the kids. So go ahead and pick your... Have you stayed on one nugget the whole time?
No, this is my second.
I was going to say, that's impressive. That's still impressive.
What's impressive is I'm not like eating them without sauce. They're delicious.
All right, here we go. Careful about breathing in as soon as you eat. Probably should have told you that. Sometimes that heats things up.
That one's spicy. That one's spicy. Woo! That one was spicy. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Now I'm taking...
Going back to the number one?
The vinegar. Yep. All right. You got questions, though?
I do. I'm just going to let that soak in for just a second.
That one's spicy.
Well,
Yeah, that one is... now the hair's going up. Wow, that was spicy. And you ate something spicier than that? Like by double?
Technically, about 5 to 6 times.
All right.
We have it here if you really want to try it.
No.
Okay. Having subjected myself to it, I'd do it again. But okay. So I got 3 questions. I'm going to ask 2 of them because one is going to be pretty easy, and I think this is more just people getting to know you versus anything we'll get anecdotally.
Oh my God.
So what?
That's really spicy. It's still happening.
I'm kind of interested to see what Morgan's going to do in post-production we usually put different things around you to kind of illustrate different things we've talked about. So maybe different colored pills around you, like your shirt.
My mouth is on fire. Okay.
Okay. So this is the one that this is just for fun.
Okay.
This is saying, what Guinness Book World of Records record would you like to break if you could pick one?
Countries traveled.
Okay. Do we know what the number is?
No, but I just think that would be a cool one to break. Somebody's probably been to all of them. So
we've got our visual now. We can put up a map or a globe and talk about, It's really fun to see what she does afterwards. So
that
one was just for free.
Okay. Oh, my God.
There's another one that would be great to ask, but I already got a free one. So what's one question you wish I had asked you, and how would you have answered?
I don't even know. I don't know. That's a hard one. I might need to come back to that one.
We can think about it. Here, I can ask you, what's the weirdest conspiracy theory you've ever believed?
Okay, I'll go back to the first one. I wish you would have asked me what other condiments I would have liked, because that would have included ranch dressing, like something.
Okay.
That would have been my answer. Okay. Woo! Y'all don't even understand this. Like, I got cocky with sauces 1 through 5 and 5B. This last one was like not going away. Okay, and then what was the third one?
So this is the part where I'm going to tell you that you're in a small window. Luckily, you only have to fly to Houston tonight, right? Mm-hmm. You're in a small window. Everybody gets cocky who's been on this show. Every single person has been cocky on this show.
Okay, so the last one is...
Well, there was the weirdest conspiracy theory you ever believed.
What's yours for inspiration?
I'm trying to think if I've ever believed in a real conspiracy. I'm sure I did. So all my years of HR has made me a little bit boring and sometimes frustrating for this one particular reason. I like to consider both sides and find this middle ground that everybody can think about. So, like, somebody might talk about they believe in a flat earth. I don't believe in a flat earth, but I can understand how people might. So you see how that's annoying? You won't get me into this large debate about it because I'm always going to go, I can see your side. So you could tell me.
Yes, and. That's the whole thing. Yes, and is like the new wave thing for everyone talking about. Okay, so I got one.
Okay.
So I believed for a while, I was convinced that this conspiracy theory that Avril Lavigne was not really Avril Lavigne was true. I don't know if
I have not heard about this one. I heard a little laugh in the background. So tell us more about this.
There is an entire conspiracy that Avril Lavigne is unfortunately no longer, which if it is not true, then I am very happy. I'm not wishing her this way, but there's all these facts like people have presented that she's somebody else playing new age Avril Lavigne. And if you go down a rabbit hole like far enough, you can start to kind of see how that could be. But then, like, you get back to, like, there's no way that's not true. But, like, there's enough, like, question that I did believe it for a while.
So thank you. On my Instagram thread, I'm going to see Avril Lavigne conspiracy now because they always listen.
You know how that works, by the way, right?
The whole social component to it, and they build another version of you?
No one's listening. What's happening is your phone now knows we're hanging out. Right. And so in the off chance I talk about something I've scrolled past, which is how things happen, my geo-access is now on yours and vice versa. So, like, whatever weird Nikes you were looking at are probably going to show up in my feed because it's just the way the algorithms work when your phones geo-access each other. Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, you did it.
Awesome. This was awesome.
You actually did 7. You were the first and only guest to ever do 7.
And the first woman.
First woman, first person to go through 7. So I told you it was an extra special episode. So I want to thank Rachel Strauss from EHIM, powered by ProCare RX.
Oh my God! Yes.
Thank you for coming on the show. This has been absolutely awesome. Hope you all enjoy the
sweat
episode.
Driplets. The sweat driplets coming down my nose.
I know not to make any comment about that. But hope you enjoyed the episode. Stay tuned for our next episode, and thank you for tuning in.